my special guest here, Steve Baker. Steve Baker, who is a master home inspector at Your Home Matters. And Steve, if you would just, I introduced you, but if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Yeah, so I'm Steve Baker, and I run a company that does property inspections. So you say, what is that? Well, what that entails is if you're planning on buying a property, we'll actually come out, inspect the property,
Okay.
tell you everything that should be of concern to you, which also translates to you getting better negotiating leverage.
Okay.
We also give you a tour of the property, introduce everything to you in the property,
Okay.
educate you about the property, different things, different aspects of the home that you should know about, including maintenance items as well. We'll get it all documented, get into a report, email it over to a person like yourself, a realtor,
Okay.
and you, the buyer. We also do environmental testing as well. So for radon test, water quality test, which I'm doing tomorrow. If you buy a house with a well, we
Okay.
actually test it.
Okay.
We'll go into that. There's different aspects of financing that require that. We do volatile organic compound testing. So if you have issues with your indoor air quality,
Oh, okay.
we can test for over 400 different chemicals, as well as the
Wow.
presence of mold.
Okay.
We also test for mold exclusively. We also do asbestos testing, as well as, I think that's everything.
Okay.
Maybe one other thing I can't think of right now, but that's what we do.
Okay, you mentioned well testing. Now, as far as I know, I've only seen wells in Southern Maryland. Where else is well water usually at?
They are there. There are some water wells in some parts of Virginia.
Okay.
There are some in Montgomery County, not just Southern Maryland,
Okay.
as well. Um, in terms of when you should do it, there are specific criteria for VA loans and FHA loans.
Okay.
They require you to do a water quality test.
Okay.
So you'll test for chemicals, nitrates, bacteria, and lead. Those will be the four things you'll test for.
Okay. So to make sure that it's safe for using it and drinking and things
Right.
like that.
So it all
Okay.
kind of correlates to the FHA, VA standards of safety and health issues. And
Okay.
so having a safe and healthy water supply
Okay.
will be what will be required.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, swimming pool testing. That you do that too.
Yes, we do swimming pool testing
Okay.
as well for those who have swimming pools.
Okay.
That is something that we do.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you tested a couple pools for me. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, swimming pools. Okay. And there was something else you mentioned that I never heard before about the air quality testing. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, so not every home inspector can do it. And let
Okay.
me just backtrack. That's not a required test.
Okay. Well,
It's
what
a-
would make somebody say, okay, I think I need to have my air tested?
Well, I get calls frequently every day.
Okay.
Before I even came here, I got a call.
Okay.
People will call. They'll say, "Hey, I had this moisture event,
Okay.
and now my house it smells kind of weird, and I see this strange stuff growing on the wall.
Okay.
I want to get my indoor air quality tested. I'm having issues breathing.
Okay.
My nose is running, etc." So
Hmm.
they'll contact me to come out and actually do an assessment of the air.
Okay.
Uh,
So that will just bring up like if there's any chemicals or allergens or what exactly does it pick up
Okay, so-
besides if there's mold?
So there's two different ways to approach this.
Okay.
We could do a air test specifically for mold,
Mm-hmm.
and that air test entails us running a pump.
Okay.
There's a little special device we have, and I should have brought one for its prop, I guess.
Okay.
But it's a
Okay.
special device that we have
Okay.
that actually captures the air, and it
Okay.
captures it on a cassette. And what the cassette captures is, what was I gonna say? It captures mold spores. And so what it is there are multiple different species of mold spores. Mold spores come in all color, all parts of the spectrum in different colors.
Okay.
So pink, yellow, purple, orange, you name it. There's a mold that comes in that color.
Okay.
All right. So we'll capture it. We'll get it off to a lab.
Okay.
The lab puts it under a microscope, and what they'll do is they'll identify the species of mold
Okay.
as well as the quantity of that particular species of
Okay.
that mold in that particular room.
Okay.
All right. Now, how the whole test works is we'll do a test. Say we do a test in the kitchen. Say we find two species, Penicillium aspergillus.
What? Wait.
Yeah,
How
I'm sorry.
many syllables was that?
Penicillium aspergillus.
Okay.
All right. So let's say they found Penicillium aspergillus and the clinical name for black mold, Stachybotrys.
Okay.
You found it. Say you found 100 for Stachybotrys and 200 for Penicillium aspergillus.
Okay.
So as part of the test, we have to do what they call a baseline comparison. So you have to
Okay.
take an air sample outside of the home.
Okay.
Okay. And so what that does is you look at the species outside of the home,
Okay.
and theoretically that same species should be inside of the home, right?
Oh, okay.
But if you have a higher level for any species indoors and outdoors, that indicates that there's a mold problem.
Okay.
But also, if you have species of mold detected inside and not outside, it indicates there's a mold issue.
Okay.
So that's typically how that works.
Okay.
But that's one type of thing that we do when it comes to mold. The other thing is that we can actually take samples of, say for instance, you see something green on the wall.
Okay.
We can actually do what they call a swab test, or we can use a type of tape
Oh.
and actually get a sample of what you saw on the wall and tell
Okay.
you exactly what that is that you saw on that wall.
Okay.
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 So it's two different types of
Okay.
tests in that regard. But then there's the other one, which is the volatile organic compounds.
Okay.
So, say for instance, you be having issues with breathing and difficulty sleeping, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
You're easily agitated,
Okay.
etc. Well, that you could be under the influence of different chemicals.
Oh.
One thing is when you have put in new cabinetry or you have put in new flooring, some of the finishes and things of that nature, they off gas.
Oh, wow.
So they emit chemicals
Okay.
for many, many months and sometimes a year or
Okay.
so.
Okay.
And oftentimes those chemicals adversely affect you
Okay.
and cause all the symptomatic things that you see, i.e. sneezing, difficulty breathing,
Mhm.
etc.
Okay.
Okay. And so that's another test that we can do. We run that for at least 2 hours, and that test covers up to roughly 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
Get out to a lab, they look at it, and then it breaks down everything that was in the air and the possible causes and possible remedies
Okay.
that you can do to remediate a lot of those issues.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Mhm.
I did have, actually it only happened one time in my entire career, which I'm grateful for, that I actually had someone have a home inspection and mold was found.
Mhm.
So we didn't know, we didn't think anything of it. We just thought that because the house was older and it had been on sale for a while, it had been closed up, we were like, okay, well maybe that's the paint smell, or we don't know.
Right.
But they ended up having the test done, and it came back that it was mold, and it was the entire basement, the joists in the ceiling, the
Mhm.
walls. It was everywhere. But the seller did agree to fix it.
Okay.
It was a little reluctance, there was a little reluctance, but they were willing to fix it because, of course, we had the proof from, okay, we had the mold test. So you know that this is actually mold. It's not, we're not just saying that it's mold, they're doing it. So I was, sometimes people get a little afraid when things like that happen, but those types of things can happen. It doesn't necessarily mean that it was a bad house. It had just sat for many months, and of course, no one lived there. So it's not like when someone is living in a house that day to day, they know exactly what's going on and things like that.
Right.
But those things happen, and I think that a lot of times with home inspections, people don't quite know how serious it is.
Right.
And it's really important, because when you're just going and looking at a house, okay, it's pretty, new paint, new carpet, or even if it's not renovated, if it's just regular, move-in ready, you still don't know what's wrong, if anything is wrong.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of stuff that usually shows up at every inspection. Some sockets, or the shower, maybe the shower knob is loose, or it's just really a lot of common things that when you go look at a house, you're not going to turn the shower on, or you're not going to, okay, let me plug in my charger to make sure. So it's really important to have a home inspection, because that's how you figure out exactly what's going on with the house. Because you guys are very thorough. I mean, you look at the roof, you pretty much look at everything, interior and exterior.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things that tell you, even looking at the grass, is it really soggy but it didn't rain, and
Right.
a lot of things like that
Right.
the average consumer or even the agent is not necessarily looking for. But I wanted to ask you, are there like certain things that people should look for when they're actually going to see a house that may give them an indication that something may be wrong?
I always say use the senses. You know, if you walk into a property, you smell strange odors. You see some issues in terms of moisture stains on ceilings and things of that nature. Then, you know, you should be on alert.
Okay.
To say, hey, you know, cosmetically the house does look appealing, but I think I'll feel more comfortable in having someone with a trained eye actually come in, go system by system, evaluate everything, so I can be more informed, get it documented, and help me make a more informed choice, and probably to avoid pitfalls as well.
Right.
Oftentimes, is what we do. We'll see things that may cost thousands of dollars to address, and by having that second eye, it really helps you avoid that pitfall. Case in point, I had one guy. He just called me for his sixth attempt at buying a house.
Oh wow, six different houses.
His sixth home inspection.
Oh my.
It's at the point now. I just like I don't even really charge him. It's like, look, you know, just
What
I'm just gonna
happened
do
six
it.
different times?
Well, everyone knows what they want.
Okay. See, we need Nicole here.
Oftentimes,
Nicole, we need you.
oftentimes everyone knows what they want, but reality doesn't match up with expectation.
Okay.
Some people, they get a little bit more. They get cold feet.
Okay.
And I think honestly, this is what's happening with this guy. He's getting cold feet. 'Cause a lot of the houses I've looked at, they were pretty decent shape, but remember his price point is like $200,000.
Okay.
In Prince George's County.
Okay.
So $200,000, you know, the type of housing you're going to get, you know, it may not be in the best shape,
Right.
but with having a trained eye can at least help you make an informed decision to say, hey, I know it's got issues, but I will be getting this house, and over time I'm going to use the home inspection report to actually get the house and fix it over time to the way that I like it. So my reality does meet up with my expectation. And oftentimes, like I said, it's not something that happens right now, but over time, with the right approach and using the home inspection report, you can get the house the way that you want it. And some people they don't have the realization, I guess, on the first try,
Right.
that's what they want. Because actually, on this last one, I just met with this guy. He actually brought a contractor with him this time for the first time.
Okay.
So he's never actually brought a contractor with him, but this was the first time he brought a contractor. So I felt that he's really like ready to move forward.
Make a commitment now.
Make a commitment. He's gonna buy the house. He had a contractor there, and it turned out great. Now, and having a contractor inspection is not always a good thing because sometimes the contractors they believe that they're inspectors, but in actuality they're not. You know, they're contractors.
Yeah.
In this case, it was great. It was harmonious. We didn't have any issues.
Okay.
But, there are some times where I feel that they're overstepping their bounds, and you know, it just makes the whole process not go as smooth as it should.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay. Well, I hope it works out for him this time.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a winner for him.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a winner for him.
Okay. Yeah, I had a home inspection that was like that where the buyer bought, so the husband and wife, and the husband, his father came, and the wife's mother and father came, and they were just on the inspector's heels, and it was just so funny because he was so patient, and the family, you know, they weren't bad or anything, but they were just like on his, I mean, when he bent down to test the tub, like to test the little, the stopper, they were on his back. It was just so funny. But, you know, the home inspections, I think that a lot of times, because buying a house can sometimes be expensive and it seems like one expense after another, a lot of people kind of shy away from really they won't necessarily say I don't want a home inspection, but they'll ask me, so do I need a home inspection? And my answer is always yes, because there's no way for us to know what's going on. There's no way. You know, I remember there's another inspector, his name is Rob Goodwin, and he made a post on Facebook about doing a home inspection for a new construction house, and
Yeah.
it's brand new. It looks fine. Everything looks good. But when he pulled out I think it's the infrared to see if there's water. When he pulled that out, it was water in the wall, and there was a pipe in the floor, in between the master bedroom and the bathroom that was messed up. And so if they would have never had their own home inspection, they wouldn't have known that. So then you move
Yeah.
into the house and move all your stuff in, and then you have a flood, or so something like that. So it's definitely important, and it's
Right.
also important, as we talked about on the other show, for once a person has their home inspection and the seller agrees to make those repairs, to have you to come back out so you can inspect it, because we don't, as realtors and just as consumers, we don't always know what to look for. I mean, no, we don't naturally carry around the tester for the outlets, or there's no way to look at certain things to tell if it was fixed properly. So that's another thing that I think is very important, to have your home inspector come back out and make sure everything is done like it's supposed to be, because of course once you take ownership, then it's yours, and there's really no way for us to say, okay, you have to, we need you to come back and do this. We need to know these things beforehand so we can have that all negotiated so that you get exactly what you're supposed to get. But it was another thing. I've been working with some investors lately, and I know a lot of investors, when they do their offers, they'll just do their cash offer, no contingencies or anything like that. But I kind of feel like they really should have an inspection, because they're looking at it, and some of them have had training on what to look for, so they know, okay, I need to repair this, I need to repair that. But if it's a serious issue, I think it helps for them to have an inspection, because then they can more so itemize, okay, how much is this going to cost for me to repair these things, and not just have it when they buy it. But I really feel like sellers should have a home inspection before they put their house on the market, and try and get some of those items done, because when a home inspector comes in, they're going to find something. But if you start ahead of time, then I think that will help a little bit, because you don't want a buyer to come in and you have 20 points on as a seller, you don't want a buyer to come in and they have 20 points on their home inspection, because that's happened to me before. I don't know if you remember the renovated house that was in Palmer Park that my best friend bought.
Yeah, I think I remember that one.
And they had a lot of it was 21 points, I think, 25 points on there. We would never have known that if she didn't have a home inspection. There's no way we would have seen those things, because it's not something that you can just look at. But they agreed, and and they fixed it, which that's the goal. You want to make sure when you're buying something that you're buying something that's worth something. You don't want to buy something and then you move in and you have to make all these repairs. So it's really important to take the proper steps. When you're buying a house, you want to have your inspections. And like Steve said, if it smells funny, have an air test. It doesn't hurt to do those things, because especially if you're a person that has allergies, and a lot of us do, especially now, it's not even seasonal, it's all year round. Like I have a year round allergies. I take Flonase in the morning and something else I can't pronounce at night. So every day to keep straight. So it's definitely important. But tell me a little bit more about the training that you undergo, because like you said, sometimes the contractors come in and they think they know more than you, but you're a master home inspector. So on top of whatever prerequisite you had to get your initial license, you still, how do you get to that point of being a master inspector? Like how do you train to become a home inspector? That's the first thing I want to know.
Well, it's all dictated by local jurisdiction.
Okay.
And so well, let's use Maryland, for instance.
Okay.
DC has, actually, believe it or not, DC has no licensing requirement
Oh.
at this time.
Okay.
Let's just use Maryland, because Maryland has had theirs before anybody else.
Okay.
So in Maryland, you have to take, if I'm not mistaken, now I got grandfathered in. Let's backtrack here.
Okay.
When I first started, I had bought a franchise.
Okay.
And at that time, there was no licensing requirement in Maryland.
Okay.
Before.
Okay.
Maryland came up with the idea to start licensing in 2008.
Oh, okay.
So as part of the training I had through the franchise, it was approved by the state of Maryland, and I was grandfathered in.
Okay.
But as it stands right now, and you have to go on DLLR's website to verify this. From my understanding, if I'm not mistaken, I would take 120 hours of in-class training
Okay.
on all the various systems and components in the house.
Okay.
So it'd be the plumbing system, the heating systems, the roof, et cetera, the grading,
Okay.
all that. and then you have to pass the National Home Inspector exam.
Okay.
Upon completion of that and showing a high school diploma and getting insurance, then you are at that point approved to be licensed as a home inspector. But it doesn't stop there.
Okay.
In Maryland, you have to take 30 hours of continuing education every 2 years.
Okay.
So you got to constantly seek out different avenues of getting these hours in.
Mm-hmm.
One way is to join some of the associations.
Okay.
Maryland has its own association, Maryland Association of Home Inspectors.
Okay.
They have a 2-hour continuing education every other month.
Okay.
And a nice 8-hour in January.
Okay.
Which I'll be at.
Okay.
Or you can join ASHI, which I actually went to their 8-hour about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
They have an 8-hour and they have a 2-hour like every month, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
Okay.
So you can easily accumulate your continuing education hours
Okay.
and stay competent in your profession and go from there.
Okay.
But that's typically what's required.
Okay.
Each jurisdiction has its own requirements. It's on like DC doesn't have a license.
Okay.
Or, if you're in Georgia, they have a license. North Carolina has one of the weirdest ones. I think you have to be a contractor first
Oh wow.
before you can be a home
Yeah,
inspector.
North Carolina, even with their real estate, everyone is a broker there, so they're a little more intense.
They're a little more intense.
Yeah.
Texas has its own requirements. Matter of fact, Texas has its own reporting
Oh
standard.
wow. Oh wow.
So all the reports in Texas look exactly the same. You
Oh,
have to
okay.
use the Texas state template
okay.
to do home inspections there. So
Okay.
everyone's report will look exactly the same.
Okay.
You will not look different from your competition.
Okay.
The only difference in it would be the quality of service
Okay.
to differentiate yourself.
Okay. So how do you become a master home inspector? Like what?
Yeah, there are different certifications you can get. InterNACHI has one. Which
Okay.
I'm a member of
Okay.
InterNACHI, which is the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors.
Okay.
They actually have a credential that you can actually acquire to get that
Okay.
credential
Okay.
with you as a home inspector.
Okay.
So that's what has to be pursued.
Okay.
ASHI, if I'm not mistaken, has one. It's the American Association of Home Inspectors,
Okay.
which I'll be joining early next year.
Okay.
But they're the oldest, largest, most respected association for home inspectors.
Okay.
They have a very stringent requirement
Okay.
to come in to be a part of it, and then they have a stringent requirement of ongoing continuing education that
Okay.
they really enforce to
Okay.
make sure that you're a competent inspector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And like on one of the other shows, you were talking to us about how it's also important to have your house inspected after ownership.
Yes.
And that was a really good point that I never thought about because once you move into your new house and you get all situated, okay, you're there. A lot of times you'll have a home warranty, which is good for a year. And if something happens, they'll come out, you pay a deductible, and then they'll fix it. But after a year, it's really difficult to know, okay, should I be making a repair on this? Should I be doing something, so you have an inspection that you would do for some. Is it yearly that they can have a yearly inspection?
So there's an annual inspection. Let's back up before we talk about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about something that's trendy in DC.
Okay.
Before you put an offer on the house, they do pre-inspections.
Okay.
It happens a lot in DC. I'll
Okay.
come in, do an inspection on the property. It's probably me and 5 other home inspectors there
Oh wow.
before they even put the offer on the house.
Wow.
And we're doing an inspection. We're bumping
Okay.
heads, whatever.
Okay.
But in some cases, like it is here, when it's a very hot market, to make sure that you have a winning bid, it's not uncommon to do an inspection before you even put an offer on the house.
Okay.
And that's something that I do as well.
Okay. So is that a full-fledged inspection?
It is a full-fledged inspection.
Wow.
Oftentimes I have a very narrow window, so
Okay.
they'll say, come in at 9, do the inspection, need to report back by 10:30, 11 o'clock,
Okay.
whatever. We got to have all officers got to be in about 12,
Okay.
1
Yeah,
o'clock.
it's competitive right
So
now.
it's very competitive. It's
Yeah.
hot. You got to get in, do a thorough, competent inspection,
Okay.
get the report out, try to meet that window,
Okay.
and give them an informed decision to see
Okay.
if they want to move forward with that.
Wow.
Also, now let's go backtrack and say once you acquire the property,
Okay.
yeah, you should do an annual inspection. An
Okay.
annual inspection is basically another home inspection of the same property
Okay.
under the same guidelines and restrictions, but it's identifying things that may have occurred since you've been in the property that you may not be aware of.
Okay.
Here again, like I said, you go about your daily lives, you're doing your trained profession,
Mm-hmm.
and you may not be the best person in terms of being handy and being observant. So you got to have a trained professional come in like once a year, and we go
Okay.
system by system, and we
Okay.
identify issues that may be occurring in your home that you're not aware of.
Okay.
And then we document them.
Okay.
And then it goes back to what we talked about, I think previously, is getting a home warranty, because if I
Right.
document a lot of these things at the annual inspection,
Mm-hmm.
you can later submit it to your home warranty
Okay.
and get it addressed.
Okay.
But let's not just stop there. Let's say you buy a new construction.
Okay.
In that first year, you should actually get a home inspector to come through and do an inspection, because as
Okay.
you know, in the first year, builders give you a 1-year warranty,
Okay.
and they want you to note anything you see
Okay.
and come
Oh,
back
that
and
makes
generally
sense.
fix
Okay.
it.
So maybe like at the 6-month mark.
Typically around the 10th or 11th month
Okay.
mark.
Okay.
You have me come in and test everything and get everything written up, because
Okay.
you have a 1-year warranty
Right.
with a new construction.
Okay.
And I'll be able to get that together. You can present it over to the builder and
Okay.
have the builder address that as well.
Okay. That would be very helpful actually, because if not, I'm not quite sure. I haven't been present for when the builder comes back for that 1 year, and to find out, okay, do you need anything done? I don't know if they do an inspection or not, and I guess if they don't submit anything,
They typically don't do an inspection.
They
They
just
go
ask
They
you-
ask you, get a little
Okay.
list together, you submit it to them, and then they kind of go down the list and
Okay.
and dot the i's and cross
Yeah.
the t's and see everything is addressed.
yeah, you definitely
Yeah.
want to use the warranty, because I mean
Yeah.
you're paying for it.
Mhm.
So especially home warranties, a lot of times I think people won't necessarily call to say, okay, I'm having an issue with this or that, but it's really worth it, because you pay a small deductible and they're going to try their best to fix it, because they really don't want to have to replace an appliance or one of your systems. So they're going to do their best to make a repair to it so that it's functional again.
Right.
So, yeah, and that annual inspection really it would be good too, because especially when most people, they don't buy their forever house the first time.
No,
And
they
so if they do that annual inspection, it will really be helpful when it's time to sell,
Mhm.
because they've already been keeping up on the maintenance, and really keeping up on maintenance saves money in the long run.
Right.
Because if you have just like some houses that may be, I would say, built in the 40s and 50s, a lot of times they need the bricks pointed up.
Correct.
But if that's something that they were maintaining every year, then it wouldn't be such a huge expense, because naturally something like that, it's not that often it's going to be done. So the contractor is going to charge a decent amount for those types of repairs, because how often is someone going to need something like that?
Right.
But if that's addressed early and maintained,
Right.
then it will be very helpful
Yeah.
with that. But yeah, that's really important, and especially for first-time home buyers, because buying a house for the first time is a huge deal, and it's scary, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm moving from maybe an apartment where all I have to do is call maintenance to change the light bulb for me or change the batteries in the smoke detector. I don't know if they do that, but I've heard someone say that, if my light bulb burst, not burst, but if my light bulb went out, I just had to call maintenance, and
Yeah.
they'll come and fix it. So you don't have to worry about anything when you're in an apartment setting. You don't have to worry about maintenance if there's a flood, if the toilet's clogged, or anything like that.
Right.
But the flip side of that is you have to get permission for everything. If you want to paint, you have to get permission to paint, and when you leave, you have to paint it back.
That's correct.
That's really not fun to me, especially if you're thinking about only living in an apartment for a year or two, because that time goes by fast. I mean, look how fast this year went by.
Oh,
Look,
yeah.
look,
Wow,
I mean,
it
we're
did.
already mid-November. So, okay, I'm going to paint
Thanksgiving's
this.
couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
paint this whole wall, and then I'm going to have to put it back. And most of the times I'm noticing now with the newer apartments, it's not a stark white wall. It's like a brown, a neutral brown, or a neutral cream. Where are you going to get that paint from? Because they're
Right.
probably not going to give it to you, because they want to charge you for every little thing because you're leaving them. They don't want you to leave. So, you have restrictions. Somebody may call because you're walking too hard or whatever. So it's a lot of restrictions for apartment living. But, first-time home buyers, you definitely want to make sure that you're protecting your investment. And the best way to protect your investment is taking the proper steps throughout the process. So,
Right.
of course, it's fun when we go out to look for the house. Oh, it's so pretty. It's so beautiful.
Exactly.
But just as an appraisal is required to determine the value,
Right.
even though home inspection isn't required for the loan, I would definitely recommend anyone to get a home inspection. Don't ever buy a house and not get a home inspection, because again, you can't see what's going on. You don't know. I remember one house, when I was practicing real estate in DC, and it had the cloth wire system, I think, and
Yeah.
plaster walls, and it was they weren't having necessarily having any problems with the electric, but we were like, okay, but if you do, what if you do? And there's no way by looking at the plug to know that they had that type of system.
Right.
So them having the home inspection, they're like, okay, so this is what you have. This is the risk of that, because that's another thing about your report. You have on there, okay, this is what type of system you have, and this is what could happen with this type of system, and that's very important because most people don't know these things.
Right.
They don't know the risks of certain types of even like. It was something, what was that? It's not I want to say it's like a propane type of heat or propane, one of those types of heat. And I had never saw it before and I didn't know how it worked, you know?
Yeah.
So even things like that, there may be things that come up that you don't know how to work, because the average consumer, especially if you're a first time home buyer and you're coming from an apartment, you don't really know about, may not really know about the different types of heating. And some of the even condos have the individual systems for cooling, not necessarily a window unit, but it's an individual system. So if you don't know about those things, those are things that you can find out about. And I think your report also has like the estimated cost to repair certain things.
Yeah, on request. I don't necessarily put that in on
Okay.
every report, but
Okay.
on request I will put those
Okay.
in.
But that can be helpful too, because sometimes when we're asking for repairs from the seller and we may say, okay, we want them to repair 5 things, and they may say no, but okay, we'll give you $500. Well, $500 may not be sufficient.
Right.
But if we have some documentation saying, okay, look, this is the estimate for how much these things are going to cost, and that's a separate service that you can have if you want like the equivalent of a contractor's estimate for how much the repairs cost. That's something additional that you can add. And sometimes you need that because, for example, the house that did end up having the mold, they did that because they wanted to know, okay, how much will this mold remediation actually cost?
Right.
Because if the seller says no, we're not going to fix it, and they say, okay, well, we'll give you $2,000, but if the remediation is going to cost $3,000, then that's not you don't you don't want to be short. You want to be you want to be okay with the money. So it's definitely important.
Right.
And also, as I was saying earlier about investors, I think for investors, because they want to make their offer competitive, and sometimes they don't do any type of inspections or anything, and I don't think that's necessarily the most wisest decision. Of course you want to be competitive, but at the same time you have to protect your investment, because if you're going into something that needs a total renovation and you don't necessarily know everything that's going on, then that can be kind of dangerous, because it's like, okay, once you get in and you open up the wall, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, the wires are, I mean, because we've seen some things in houses that are like, okay, you know, I know when you're going through your inspection, like, Mo, come in.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, what's going on? But you know, those types of things, you just don't know, because even with some houses that look as though they need to be repaired, and you say, okay, I know that needs to be fixed. I see the water stain on the drywall, but you don't know what caused the water stain.
Right.
And you don't know if it's fixed or not, because a lot of times, especially in houses, maybe like an estate sale or a foreclosure or a house that has been vacant for a while, they could have had issues that happened and now it's dry and nobody knows what's going on.
Right.
You just don't know. So that's why it's really important to have those inspections, because the inspection, how many points is the inspection? Do you have like, is it like 100-point inspection?
Typically my inspections are 400-point inspections.
I thought 100 was a lot.
Hundreds of points.
Okay.
So all the major systems, heating, AC systems, the structural systems, the electrical systems, the plumbing systems, the attic, the foundation, and the general grading around the home.
Okay.
So that's inclusive of over 400 different points.
Okay.
All right. So it's a lot of things to look at.
Okay.
It's a very exhaustive process.
Yeah.
Even though I make it look easy.
You do.
Oh, man, I want to be a home inspector. You make it look easy. No, it's a lot, it's a
but
lot
you know
of
what
work.
you're looking for. So
yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for 14 years,
Okay.
so it's like I can do it in my sleep.
You're 25. Tell me how you've been doing this for 14 years.
No, I'll be 25 next month.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, I've been doing it for 14 years, and yeah, I really enjoy doing it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very thorough. So
I try to be.
That's appreciated, because there's no way I could find 400 points. I'll be like, okay, what about the socket? Okay.
It's a lot.
turn the dishwasher on, but but even with that, I may turn the dishwasher on and I may run the dishwasher, but that doesn't necessarily mean I know what I'm looking for.
Right.
Because what if it works just fine, but it's draining slow?
Right.
You'll know that. Why am I moving the microphone? You'll know that.
Right.
But I wouldn't necessarily know, okay, well, this should drain after a certain time. And it's just a lot of things. I mean, when you go look at a house, you don't flush all the toilets. You don't turn all the showers on to see if it's going to leak. You just don't do things like that.
Right.
So, and you shouldn't have to, because that's why you hire different professionals, so that you can leave it up to them.
Right.
Because 400 points, 120 hours just to get the license. Then you have to pass the test. The average consumer and myself also, that's not my area of expertise. So it's definitely best to leave it to the professionals. Let them handle that, and then we go from there, and then we can see what we have to negotiate. We always ask for the seller to make repairs unless they specifically stated that they're not making any repairs. Then okay, the home inspection would be for informational purposes only, which is still fine, because you want to be properly informed as to whether or not you want to move forward or not based on things that you found in the home inspection. I think I've only actually had one person that walked away from a house after a home inspection, and it wasn't even necessarily the things that were wrong with the house, but it was just the fact that the seller didn't want to fix anything. And there were a lot of things. All the trim around the windows outside was rotted. And that's another thing, when you're going to look at a house, you're just not looking at things that in depth. Like, okay, let me check the trim. Sometimes people will look at the roof, but you really don't know what you're looking at. If that's not that's really not your area of expertise, you just don't know.
Right.
So those things are important, because you want the professional in that field to be responsible for looking at, okay, let me check this out. I remember one home inspection that you did for one of my clients, and the HVAC outside, is it the HVAC outside or condenser outside?
Well, it's inclusive of the HVAC system. So yeah, the condenser is outside.
Okay, so the condenser outside and the unit that's inside were two different brands. I was like, okay.
Right.
So what does that mean? I didn't know. I'm like, okay. But see, again, that's not my area of expertise. But you were telling them, tell us why that's important, that they are the same brand.
Yeah, so the manufacturers design their systems to work in cohesion.
Okay.
So they wanted the air handler on the inside to work in cohesion with the condenser on the outside.
Okay.
And when you intermingle the brands, the efficiency level may not be optimal.
Okay.
Because they're not designed to work in cohesion with each
Okay.
other.
Okay.
So that's some of the issue that you may have, and you may actually get a diminished life expectancy for either or both of the two components that comprise the system.
Okay.
Yep.
I know some other things I've noticed in a lot of these. We are at Listen Vision Studio in Northwest DC.
Listen Vision Studio, Northwest DC, right across the street from the historic what?
Howard University.
Howard University, that's where we are.
Another thing that I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Talking about the condenser. I don't know, but that was not something. Oh, I know what it is. A lot of the houses that are built, I would say around maybe. I know after 2000, but maybe like 2001, 2002, where they started having zoned heating and cooling.
Correct.
I noticed that a lot of those units, it seems like to me, are not really big enough for what they're, you'll have, your main big unit that's for the main level.
Right.
And then you'll have a smaller one for upstairs. But the problem is, in the summertime, it's hot upstairs because that little unit is really not. So, that's something too that's important in the home inspection, because you'll know based on how many square feet, okay, this unit needs to be this size in order to support something that's this amount of square feet. And that's happened before, where the unit was actually too small for how many square feet. I don't remember what house that was, but you did do the inspection and you were like, okay, this unit is too small for this square footage up here.
There's actually a mathematical formula for that that HVAC technicians use to determine the adequacy of a system for a particular given square footage.
Okay.
But one peculiar thing that you mentioned was when you had a scenario where you have a two-zone system or a one-zone system, and the top floor, the highest floor is actually very hot in the summertime, you can put in, if you do have an attic and you have access to it, you actually put in a thermostatically controlled fan.
Oh.
And there's a fan that goes into the attic and it kicks on when the thermostat is set to a specified temperature.
Okay.
Typically about 110 degrees Fahrenheit or higher.
Okay.
It'll kick on, and this autonomous system will kick on, and it'll pull all the heat out of the attic. But as a consequence, the second floor, the highest floor, right below the attic, will be anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees cooler.
Oh, okay.
So it's an added benefit. And it makes it more energy efficient.
Okay.
Cuts down your electrical use.
Okay.
That fan that runs in the attic, yeah, that's pennies on the dollar.
Is it noisy?
It can be a little noisy. Some of the it depends on how much money you spend on the particular unit that you buy.
Okay, so you get what you pay for.
So yeah, if you get the more expensive units, they have better sound dampening. And it won't be as loud.
Okay,
It
but
also
that's probably
depends
worth
on the
it
level
though.
of insulation in your attic too.
Okay.
So if you don't have adequate insulation, some of that sound may actually protrude back into that level.
Okay.
But then having adequate insulation in there as well will help cut down on cooling costs too.
Okay.
So it might be a combination of both of those things.
Okay.
But definitely a thermostatically controlled fan is something that can be put in and that can remedy that situation of having that very hot top floor
Okay.
in the summer months.
Okay. And not to be redundant, but again, all these things really go back to having an inspection to begin with because, again, these are who's going in the attic. I've only had, in 12 plus years, I've only had one, let's see, I think it's only been one buyer that actually went in the attic and they pulled the stairs down. They didn't actually go in there and walk around. They pulled the stairs down and walked up half the stairs and looked, but they didn't actually go in there and walk around. But again, everything really points back to the inspection because you're not going to know if that unit is too small for that level. You're not going to know if you have proper installation. Even if you're looking there yourself, it's just not your field. And they're just things that you just don't know, and that's why it's important to have an inspection because all those things can be covered. And as Steve mentioned earlier, those are bargaining tools for negotiation. We may not necessarily, I've never had an instance where the price was negotiated based on the inspection, but that's not to say that it couldn't happen. But I have had instances where the sellers would give the buyers additional credit towards their closing costs. Or if it's a FHA 203K construction type loan, they may potentially be able to get some of that money to go towards their repairs. Or even if it's a regular FHA, sometimes they can't escrow repairs for regular FHA. But there are things that can be done. So don't be too afraid if you have an inspection and things go wrong, because I've never had an instance where someone had an inspection and nothing was found. Yeah. Something is going to be found. Anytime there's stuff found in new construction, there's definitely going to be something found. But that's okay because at least you know, and then once you know, then you know how to move forward and say, right, okay, this needs to be fixed, that needs to be fixed. And
I think it's like the old G.I. Joe. No one has had the battle. Right?
Yeah.
So once you know what your situation is,
yeah,
and you can effectively plan,
yeah,
and get the right solution,
yeah,
and get the outcomes you're looking for. You brought up a good point. 203Ks,
mm-hmm,
and FHAs,
mm-hmm,
FHA loans. It's a really great product.
It is.
But that loan can't be used in every situation.
Right.
If the house has a number of repairs,
right,
that FHA required to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happens, you have to bring in someone like myself, who's also a FHA 203K consultant.
Okay.
So a FHA 203K consultant is someone who's been trained, who knows all the FHA
mm-hmm,
required repairs. Typically, it's health, safety, and energy efficiency.
Okay.
Is what they're going to be looking for.
Okay.
We have to do a feasibility study.
Okay. And what is that? I've heard that before, but I don't really know what that is.
So that term, feasible, is it feasible for me to do something? So
okay,
same kind of thing. You got to do a feasibility study. So we have to look
okay,
at the numbers, the after repair value of the house once
okay,
you do these required repairs, versus the cost.
Okay.
And the sales price that we're getting at.
Okay.
We got to make sure that LTV or loan to value will be sufficient to make this deal work.
Okay.
Based upon
I never
all
thought
those
about
factors.
that, but that's a good point.
But when we're doing a FHA 203K, there are two types of two different ways you can go with that.
Okay.
They have the FHA streamline repair,
okay,
which is $35,000 or less in repairs.
Okay.
And then you have a FHA 203K full. A full
okay.
one.
I've never heard of that one.
203K.
Okay.
So let's talk about this is another whole topic that we're going to have to talk about next time.
We will.
We're almost out of time.
Most people know about the streamline, though.
The streamline is $35,000 or less. And these are all the required repairs that's going to have to be done on the house.
Okay.
That one typically does not really require a 2 or 3K consultant. You actually have a contractor come in, he can throw his estimate in there,
Okay.
and you can process the loan and get it on through.
Okay.
Some lenders will be adamant that you had to have a 2 or 3K consultant in that situation, but I'll say about 95% say no, you're good. Just get an estimate from a contractor.
Okay.
Have a consultant come out and do a feasibility, or they'll go by the home inspection report.
Okay.
But have a feasibility study done, and then that's it. Now, on a full 2 or 3K, you have to have a 2 or 3K consultant.
Okay.
And that's when you get over $35,000 or less, or if you have structural issues or you have issues with mold.
Okay.
So you can actually have a house with smaller repairs, but it has mold in it, it's automatically a full.
Okay.
You can have a house with smaller repairs of $35,000 or less.
Okay.
And have structural issues, automatically a full.
Okay.
Because it's structural related.
Now, is there a cap on the dollar amount for the full?
No. The full has really
okay.
no cap amount.
As long as your LTV,
as long as the
loan to value
was there.
Okay.
The ARV is there and the LTV is there.
Okay.
And typically on LTV they go like 97.3. I mean, it's like really high.
Okay, so that's
like
not bad.
97%.
So that gives people options.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but there's a multiple steps that have to be addressed when you do that.
Definitely.
And that's
it's a process.
I can't talk about on this particular session.
Yeah.
But if I do come back in the future, we'll talk more in depth about the 2 or 3Ks.
Okay.
That whole process, all the paperwork entailed with it,
Okay.
the timelines,
Okay.
all those fun nuggets that we can talk about. And if you're that buyer who wants a challenge or
definitely
a fixer
challenge.
upper,
Yeah.
then the 2 or 3K is the product for you because it allows you to buy the house and put the rehab costs all together in one loan.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of it.
Okay.
And there are, like I said, a lot of caveats about it we're not going to talk about today because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But next time, when I do come back, we'll go more in depth because I am a 2 or 3K consultant as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in closing, I'll start first because you just had to talk a lot, so I'll give you a break. But I was going to ask you what was the highlight of your week. But I also had a highlight of my week. I haven't had a highlight of my week in a couple of weeks. But the highlight of my week last week is my best friend, who I call my bestest. Got her real estate license. So I'm so excited because we get to work together and I can stalk her, and she won't think anything of it because we're working together. So I'm really excited for her. After me trying to convince her for a whole year, she finally said yes. So I'm really excited. And earlier, I was talking with her son, and he asked me to give him a shout out.
Okay.
So I'm giving Aaron a shout out.
Shout out, Aaron.
He wanted me to give him a shout out and let everyone know that he is the reason why I got into real estate, and I'm where I am today because of him. And although I've been an agent for 12 plus years, and he's only 12, he said that when he was in his mom's womb, he was already influencing me. So I just want to give Aaron a huge shout out and thank him so much. Okay. But he's a great kid though. But yeah, Steve, if you could just tell us what was the highlight of your week.
The highlight of my week is I got a Sunday off. That's the highlight of my week. I normally work 6-7
How did
days
you do
a week.
That?
I just was miraculously scheduled this Sunday and I was able to get it off. The other highlight of my week was I had my last tryout. I coach youth basketball in Upper Marlboro, Maryland for Boys and Girls Club. We had our last tryout on this past Friday.
Oh, wow.
And that was awesome. We picked up a number of players. And I think we're going to win the championship this year because I'm the assistant coach. And I know what I'm talking about. And I know how to write up plays and do things and make things win. And because we're winners, and that's what we're going to do.
Hey, I'm with it. What's the age group?
This is going to be 12U.
Okay.
My son's going to be on there. He's point guard.
Okay.
And he's going to do a fabulous job. And we're going to win the championship this year because we're all winners.
What's the team name?
Marlboro Mustangs.
Marlboro Mustangs.
Mustang. Yum.
In the championship.
In the championship. We're going to beat the Bowie Bulldogs this year.
They're going to beat the Bowie Bulldogs. Y'all heard it here first.
You heard it here first. We will beat the Bowie Bulldogs this year in our age group, without question.
That's so funny. Well, we just want to thank everyone for joining us again. We're going to have Steve back definitely because I definitely want him to talk more to you all about the FHA 203K, the full.
Come back, and we may actually have some props this time because that's a very complicated process to grasp. and a lot of people have difficulty understanding without prompts. So we'll do that on another time.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And Nicole will be back with us, our resident mental health therapist. I missed her. I mean, why she didn't come?
Yeah.
I know she couldn't be here. She couldn't join us today.
Yeah.
But she will be back next week, and we will definitely get her tips. We'll have her recap some of her previous tips that she's given us and find out what she's been up to and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for joining us, and hopefully you will come back and join us again next week.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
All right.